Hi. I had to laugh because I had to look at where we were going to be reading from today. And like the first part of the first sentence was like, this is going to be good. I already know it. Praise God. All right. My name is Cynthia Pastor. I'm a prophet of God. I absolutely have been given this gift through several lifetimes, and absolutely work through concurrent gods that are considered in the timeline, as well as receive others through their prophecy. Just like this morning, I was talking to Dahmer, whose prophecy of his past lives and incarnations was released onto the television, but yet he has been incarnated in this life. And it's basically looking for like proof in visual formats and things like that of like that he wouldn't afflict the same crime, that he wouldn't end up in the same place. Now, without revealing his identity now, most of that has already been described out because I love certain things growing up. Just learning anyways. Like, how did you, like see yourself as justified within this? How did you like not look at this in a certain amount of way? You know what I mean? So I just had questions. So I would just, basically stand there and like question people behind their servant gods and basically supply their information. That way they question the person that's incarnated here, who would be the now of this timeline occurrence of Dahmer, and basically ask those things. That way they get syncretized out, placed on the television by that god, and then goes to me, so that way that I can later on fruitionalize their future back to them and let them know through a channel this morning, like, you have been placed, this is coming out right now. It's like, I swear I recognize my face or somebody I used to be from the future. I swear that I saw this some type of serial killer or something like that, but that's not even my fortune or how I see myself. It's like, it's because the fact of what you did this and this. You basically have to like re-explain themselves to each other and understand like you don't belong in this placement anymore. Like, this prophecy has been tossed. And basically what people are trying to do through this person, it's not that you were actually being condemned to that space, or not that I'm trying to mistreat you. I'm trying to let you know that they can't be considered the same. Otherwise you would have like a devil meets the Satan format, and like those two forks don't align. So basically you have to understand through a good conversation that like you are here incarnated in this life. You're seeing remnants of your past on the television, as well as many others, because the story is concocted through like a general population basis, and then basically placed back through certain cisterns and time sequences. That way, nobody knows the latter. It's like a little bit wild, but it's one of those things where it's like, shouldn't you naturally know this instead? Like, I married God, you know what I mean? Like, he was in the fishing pool as long as, with every other man. Like, he was in the same pool as every other man. I'm sorry he passed away at the age of 32. And I just, I basically lived my entire life as a saint, as like almost like a flame fruition Mother Mary, burning from a fires, like from a feather of a wing. Basically, like being guided by angels the whole way out. Like, as he was here in the population being guided by feathers of angels the whole way out, meets his mother, tosses his mother, and goes back upstairs. That doesn't mean he can't be a fruition for me and my physical partner in life. You know what I mean? And then even if it's not, what would be your disgruntled opinion or choice in the fact that I choose God as my husband? Just because the fact that I started receiving this prophecy well before the age of 14, but that's where I watched the Passion of the Christ, and I saw myself walk into his tomb and like lay down with him. It was actually like a mass grave, honestly. Where would they put somebody who is in such cheap poverty without a father to oppose, the Virgin Mother Mary saying like, oh, this is my child, or this isn't my child? Like, he was put into a mass grave. You know what I mean? There's a lot of other bodies in there. And then, they didn't really roll the thing shut. They kind of put the cross in front of the grave, making it look like a slander of sorts. And that's why you always lean to the side to tell your truth, or you lean this side to be obtuse. But anyways, so, not that others are allowed to perceive my birth chart to begin with, but where my placements are and everything, I found this out, like parts of it, like Scorpio in 10th house, certain things like that. Like, I'm already considered the natural prodigal child who's been considered as Jesus Christ's son, child, their law officer of support, earth angel in many encounters, sorceress in another. What we're discussing today is sorry about that. I get real defensive over my husband. Physical limitations have applied. Absolutely was brought up until the age of 32, living the exact life of Christ, watching my father disappear at the age of 5, watching my mother disappear from me at the age of 32, living with the farmer who's, her twice wedded ex of the Peters family and things like that, and seeing how my children were basically like domesticated through another animal of adultery. And then I saw how my second son, he wasn't given like a serial code or a serial number when he was born, like most people are given. And I was like, this doesn't have to do with him being a 22. There's some other gambler that's involved in here, and it's not about the death book I received and already read 3 times. Nobody needs to do any of that. It's all been turned into Jesus Christ, but the memory prevails. And anything that you give to Jesus Christ, he gets greedy for you, as well as the material left out as debris. So a lot of this has already been received into the population, and most of what I have conceived from Jesus Christ, as well as given him, has provided him life here. This could be something that many would like to contradict, as well as opinions fettering in the head, saying that, like she could really believe that she could bring about Jesus Christ in real life, in real time, in real form. And it's like, well, have you ever met me? Have you asked me a question? Do you know where I'm from? Have you met, a certain tribe members of the Illuminati and then shut them down into their own space again? Hercules. They already came and tried to burn my hair alive, smoke me out with gas, close both nostrils shut. That way the only place I'd have to breathe is through something that's an unbreathable vessel anymore. You can't expand these things like the hiccups, can be released from. So, you have this space, which is your heart's enclosure, so you could breathe out from your heart, or you could sing out from the space that which is something that I don't do. I don't travel through my nose. So basically what I did instead was I kind of cleared out and canceled out my voice, chopped out my voice because I already had strings around my throat. And would literally go around the house letting myself sing and through any angle, but prayers to God. Letting basically like Bring Me to Life, Bleeding Love, No Air, certain songs like that. I would sing around my house and just let my dialect change, my rhythms change. I'd go to the lowest place I could get to, the highest place I could get to, all with prayers to God. Any voice that comes in becomes his receive. And then through doing that, I started having a soft exchange within my esophagus again and started doing this. And through that, there was a release of some type of exposure of a black tongue that was expelled out. And I was scared for years that, since that was the age of 13, that it was going to go over onto the population. And I kept it a secret for most of my life. Because it was before I even watched Passion of the Christ and got to dedicate my life to him and saw the prophecy. But then I realized that my first name, Cynthia, has many conjunctures with my name, meaning Hecate of Artemis, and my mom's name is Diane, so Diana, connecting to the angel of Cynthia and the post-life, how there's others in Maryland that have my naming claims. Yeah, sorry, I sent something out. And looking at certain things, like my first son was born on Halloween, pagan holiday, ritualistic holiday and things like that. All things sown basically to keep you within a certain theme. But following your understandings of how you want to perceive Christ and how you're allowed to, the light will reflect on you. So I lived a life basically of Jesus Christ, where I went completely homeless multiple times, in and out of somebody's shelter, on the street, within the car, with kids, unemployed, no way to receive unemployment, no way to receive cash assistance. Although applications were submitted, I was denied on all requests and basis. And I was just like, how is it that, a woman who can't get to, there's no bus where I live. There's no employment where I am. I don't have a babysitter. My older son isn't at the legal age where he'd be allowed to, receive him as a babysitter legally. And then my Wi-Fi is a beautiful blessing of gestation from my neighbors upstairs letting me use it, showing that I have 0 providers affecting me. However, I was asking God, well, where are you at then? If nobody's able to provide for me, then why am I not being provided for? And it was basically something where I started realizing that there was some type of contraption I felt like I was being massaged under. And it's like a silver masseuse table that lies underneath the ground. And then you have your 6 feet unders, like what your knowledge is aware of. And then where they keep you is in this space over here, which is mostly controlled by Black Lilith and, obsidian and things like that. Stones that love to be mentioned but never like to be turned. things like that. I got out with my shungite. It's like the first volcano always knows it splash out, you know. But regardless, I'm way too far in this. I love digesting this type of material. It's so much fun to speak over understandings. But it's blessed to understand that whoever was received within the population that we currently are living with, the Dahmer gene most inherently in place with them, has been received through dialections of the TV and the Temple of Gion. And then at the same time, I was back there to question and basically re-receive them to their timeline, so that way they would be meeting Jesus Christ instead of such manifester. And then that King Sion would fall. And then with King Og in place, you know, Argon would never touch them. And basically they would be in a consistent space of where they're looking into family matters instead of feeling as though that something within the family could disturb. And that's what I love to do in my life. So I'm still figuring out exactly where it goes, but that's exactly where I am anyways. All right, I saw myself have to put my space back in. But right now I'm reading Job. A lot of people love to distort this to Job, but I don't know why you would remove your own alchemism if you'd like to look at that, or Alzheimer's, you know, mechanical mechanisms, and then space to receive a job. You know, I read it first and it basically doomed me to like a 7th layer of hell. And then I had to go through the entire book with his hand in mind instead of God's hand in mind, even though everything that I handed to him was completely manufactured to God, who sits at the lowest table. And then everything that I handed back up, I basically was placed back in, understanding, reading the Bible from start to finish. So to share with you, as well as experience on my own, take it how you receive it. Like, you know, it's all up to you. I'm reading Job chapter 7. And yeah, I'll finish this one. This is a cheap one. It started going up to 8, but yeah, I have certain things outlined and understandings. But Job chapter 7, how mankind must struggle. A man's life is long and hard. This sounds like Ecclesiastes. Like, what good is a man's hard work? You know what I mean? It's like Job's reversed. I've read Ecclesiastes, I think, somewhere along the line. How mankind must struggle. A man's life is long and hard, like that of a slave. How he longs the day to end. How he grinds unto the end of the week and his wages. And so to me also have been allotted months of frustration. That's decades and worms, by the way. These long and weary nights, when I go to bed, basically like self-masturbation, like goes out the window, but then you receive what's like empty in the inside of the vessel, which we don't really consider our vessels homes anymore. You consider it the inside of your house. So then what will happen is, like, even through reading that, you'll expel, you know, kind of like your sperm or your fertility base out the window instead of the door, and then leave what's inside basically for you to go buy a new video game, turn from this and go back to technology, turn the Kardashians back on, go find, you know, what is that game called? Diablo or something? Assassin's Creed, whatever y'all play. See, it says, and so to me, look at it, and so to me also have been allotted months of frustration making the bread, looking like, you know, basically like I'm going to take these 2 DNA strands apart from your man and a woman, as we both are, and I'm going to untwist them, basically making you incomparable to an immortal now, because you shouldn't be allowed to do this, and then make the bread so that way you see neither one of them knocks between each other, but the central line that you've created, that God provides, is doing it for you. Discussions. These long and weary nights, meaning basically I don't know who to pass the bread to, my male or my female. Do I pass it on to a new fertile member? Do I pass it into my job? Where do I place this stuff? And at the same time, your mouth gains control of it, and then you end up shooting it out at the wrong person. You end up getting frustrated in your reality instead of asserting it. So when I go to bed, I think, sending it out through your visuals, most times watching TV, not as much scrolling, and more time thinking about a porno, but not realizing the derogatory information goes into your house. And, oh, that it were morning, that it were relaxed, not suffocating, not without its release. Basically, you shove the gun down inside the central line of you, and you're also putting your hand down your pants at the same time to cover up that gun, making it look like there's some type of inception actually occurring between a man and a feminine, but it's more or less because you unwound those 2 DNA strands of yourself and kept yourself alive, because you have to be. This is what they love to do with people. I'm just very, very blessed in my prophecy through, you know, the servants of this life. And then I toss till dawn, basically meaning what you give from the night, you give to the day. So what you give from the sins of the soul, you give back to your God, who is your deity. You just saw out of the window instead of the door that is your frame, your halo call stuff. And then basically you just, you made your halo into a silver instrument that can toss around your wrist instead of be something that's tossed here and placed up, because you should never see your halo. And including the fact that you can look on a dollar bill and see how like the pyramid is separated by that last triangle with the eye of Ra and all that stuff. It's actually Iris, but it's Isis. Excuse me, I had my own Celtic ancestor come out there. Did you hear him? They just thought like they were in Dublin or something. Oh my goodness. That's right. Never had me Lucky Charms. You gotta make fun of a Gaelic ancestor that wants to be Celtic. Oh my goodness. Until I toss till dawn. So basically the right way to fruitionize this for the population that's already having this disturbance, well, somebody wanted to threaten me, so why not release the cure, would be to do a 1, 2, 3, and that would basically mean that whatever you've done with your insurgence is now tossed back within you, centered out, cleansed out through God and his being and vessel. Jesus Christ supersedes all, and God becomes himself. Basically not making you a God, but activating the space of God himself, which is reinstarted by the heart. Because of the fact that, like I said, I really haven't gotten a day alive where I haven't seen my whole life basically play on a movie reel in front of me. It was just like, you leave this person, then they meet their forever person. You're not with this person, they date somebody that looks like your clone. You do this thing that you want, you can't have it. You see somebody on television get the exact thing that you want. Every single thing in my life has basically been something that's been on a scroll in front of my space. But never actually I was getting to receive anything. At first I was pissed off. I was pissed off, a little bit rebellious. But then I saw, my age, I'm like 29, coronavirus, you could hear like the tune, the instruments coming out, like it sounds like a trumpet of violence, like trying to come out from my throat and get stuck in my nose. So basically, I just noticed I was aging, and I literally just started going towards like, where's my intuition? How much magnetism do I have? I'm not more like Rogue, I'm less like Magneto, I'm more like Xavier without the closet. Sorry, Glass. I love spinning them on their chair. Because it's like this thing where you could like pose in front of them as like their accomplice, and then you can actually be in the right space and be like, oh, sorry, got you. You know what I mean? Helped you release some of that karma and put you in the right space there, didn't I? I know I sound completely ridiculous, but it's something where I've been doing this my entire life. It's absolutely proven. If you have a question, a distortion, a distraction in front of your face that makes you feel as though there's something uncontemporarily favorable for you, then absolutely I can capture it, give it back, and absolutely can help you out with that release, which I guess I already assumed myself for. So go ahead with your comments and whispers. I'm blessed for that. My skin is filled with worms. There you go. And blackness. There you go. My flesh breaks open, full of pus. There you go. And my life flies by. Oh, that was the stuff, the electronics and stuff. Okay. Oops. I'm not supposed to be reading ahead of time for y'all. Okay. In my time. Woo. Shit. Okay. Sorry. And my life flies by. It's like a timeline jumper. Like I can choose like any timeline. I'm not like Jumper where I can actually like get to Egypt. Man, I wish. Oh, that'd be so cool. But I can go into any exposed timeline that's ever been or ever been around. It was really coolly described to me the other day. It's like having, like being someone that's on the Saturn rings. Instead of like where everybody else can like, you can fall one way or the other and you have to get back up. I'm the one that has like the go-kart. It's just like, go, you know what I mean? So like at any point in time, I can just be like, I'm going to take your seat for a second. I'm going to stay in your seat for a second. I'm going to combine our languages together and we're going to take a ride with God. Yeah, kind of like that. I kind of like help people birth themselves and their prophecies into their timelines. Built within the kitchen, left the kitchen because I was the supposed and not the actual reference. And who I live for, who I die for, and who I'm like everything infected with. Affectionate towards is Jesus Christ. That's my husband. God, he looks so good this morning. I know it took me a minute just to get here. I'm going to go You see me now. You see me now. Oh, wait. My life is but a breath, and nothing good is left. You see me now, but not for long. Soon you'll look upon me dead. As a cloud disperses and vanishes, bringing up his 32 years, the angel Cynthia and the others who work within the Maryland structure. As a cloud disperses and vanishes, so those who die shall go away forever, gone forever from their family and their home, never to be seen again. Ah, let me express my anguish. Let me be free to speak out of the bitterness of my soul. Oh God, am I some monster that you never let me alone? Even when I try to forget my misery in sleep, you terrify with nightmares. I'd rather die of strangulation than go on and on like this. Yo, it's literally what I was talking about right ahead of time. Oh, I love this. Sorry, I like to jump out first, and then I get back in, and then I read it. Because then it's all solved. You know what I mean? Now that I already talked about it and was I'm done with this, but I'm also sharing with the population, which can infect, and cause more spreading. It's well, we come back, we read it, and we see this, and he's already released it. It's getting ahead of yourself. I would rather die of strangulation than go on and on like this. I hate my life. Oh, let me alone for these few remaining days. What is mere man that you should spend your time persecuting him? Must you be his inquisitor every morning and test him every moment of the day? Why won't you let me alone even long enough to spit? Has my sin harmed you, O God, watcher of mankind? Have you made me your target and made my life so heavy a burden to me? Why not just pardon my sin and take it all away? For all so soon I'll lie down in the dust and die, and when you look at me, I shall be gone. So Metatron has passed. Everybody's now coming out with this Book of Enoch, but they literally release this stuff at time-based limits and understandings of limitations, as well as time bumpers who will literally push you into a whole other space and time where you're seeing more synchronicities and things like that, just to keep you in your space so that way you recognize what you're meant to recognize. It's kind of like promotional apocalypse instead of prophecy, and they move themselves in front of prophets, that way you can perceive them. Right now she has a singular transcendental cone that's in front of her face, so she looks like she's doing this and she's trying to sip out through a sacral as well as a central line Venus thing, but she was basically Bildad the Shuhite replies to Job. So basically she's trying to promote my feelings of fear and anxiety of ever being persecuted within my own sanity, what life remains, things like that. But my life just got here. So from the age of conception to 32, I was basically only trying to resurrect what everybody has already known is coming. Now, since turning from 32 to 33 and having done this my whole life, as well as picking the material up very blessedly, it's more or less, somebody who would be deemed Jesus Christ within good counsel. Excuse me. Somebody who would be deemed Jesus Christ in male's physical form meeting his wife. The understanding was met at exactly 2300. But it's not really anything that gets past me. 10:01 on the clock. Yep. 124, 2023. So we have a double 4, the double 3, and we have 10, which makes me the halo. Nobody plays for Helios anymore. My goodness. How long will you go on like this, Job? Blowing words around like wind. Does God twist justice? If your children sinned against him and he punished them and you begged Almighty God for them, if you were pure and good, he would hear your prayer and answer you and bless you with a happy home. And though you started with little, you would end with much. Basically, all types of prophets are always received by somebody that carries an apostle within them, letting them know that basically anything that you do is based on timeline and structure of another. But there's ways to receive this and understanding. Some people like to turn towards, churches, bishops, ministries, and things like that who will perceive your prophecy first, who are already under the conclusion of the state, lacking them for taxes. So then they are basically allowed to see your prophecy and scatter it through their mind's tail ends that they didn't receive for being in church. So basically it goes out the end of a hole, square hole. And then whoever is gestated into the population, so it would be like Isis, Iris, Jehudi, which is Thoth, Rhea, Artemis, Friends of Armageddon, atheists, and things like that. They're receiving, prophecy right now. So you'll see an atheist receive more of a better balance in their life than you'll see the Christian. And this is how you can basically doom yourself in a way to see their counsel instead of your own. because the fact that they're making you look down a tube that doesn't really exist, you know? And there's ways around it, like, you know, now you can't be perceived anymore. You know, you're not allowed to be blind. Thank you. I got that girl off my face. Right? They always try to take your face, and it's just like, yo, get off me. Like, dude, like, you can't receive that twice anyways. Ay, ay, ay. Because I received like a Sobek curse at one point where I was like basically like this little parakeet in somebody's mouth. It's like, dude, I've already died for Christ. It's like, oh, then you'll die for me as well. And it's like, I couldn't do that. I almost lost my life having to lose a child, as well as almost lost my life having an abortion as well, because I wanted to carry the child full term, and I was basically not allowed to. I wasn't allowed to carry the child full term, and I wasn't sure why. And it was almost something like I felt like I was finally going to receive the daughter that I always wanted, because I have 2 boys. And it was just like, but if you receive him from this carrier, she will surely be the blood of Christ, and nobody will be as defiant as we are against her anymore. So it's like, why do you sound like you're literally like seeing a prophet and then seeing her relationship with Christ and still trying to do as much rude reactionals as possible, literally to make her so demanding on the market that by the time she meets this physical man, because I've been single for 5 years, I've been celibate for 3 years, you know, I understood where he was supposed to be and I understood what I was supposed to do. So our timeline for meeting is meant to be this year. Within the Ophiuchus curve, it was said. However, because the fact that that moves along Apophis, and many people are trying to keep up with all this witchcraft and magistry, it should come within the last month of the year. Meaning that where the last month of the year, which is in between December and January, where I found my ambition was within the Bible, is where I would supersede my spouse. So I just like to put out shots and calls. Basically in the understanding of Revelations 21, 3-4, you know, he will sit and dwell with them. He will wipe away all their tears. So if I call you into my understandings, whether this is seen by one person or, you know, the next 10 million, what will happen is the fact that I've still already committed my virus, my conviction, my tyranny, and everything else that could be perceived by another out in the spread population, because that's what I did. And I asked that he come receive me. And that's not what this reading is for, but, you know, I literally feel like, you know, I got surprised by my own spouse trying to find his way home. Read the history books and see, for we were born but yesterday, and know so little. Our days here on earth are as transient as shadows, but the wisdom of the past will teach you. The experience of others will speak to you, reminding you that those who forget God have no hope. They are like rushes without any mire to grow in, or grass without water to keep it alive. Suddenly it begins to wither even before it is cut. A man without God is trusting in a spider's web. Everything he counts on will collapse. If he counts on his home for security, it won't last. At dawn, he seems so strong and virile, like a green plant. His branches spread across the garden. His roots are in the stream down among the stones, but when he disappears, he isn't even missed. That is all he can look forward to, another spring up from the earth to replace him. But look, God will not cast away a good man, nor prosper evildoers. He yet will fill your mouth with laughter and your lips with shouts of joy. Those who hate you shall be clothed with shame, and the wicked destroyed. And then chapter 9, Job's reply. Sure, I know all that. You're not telling me anything new, but how can a man be truly good in the eyes of God? You live. You live. You realize you made mistakes. You turn back to the Word. You turn back and have every conversation you've ever thought of within Him, other than going down to not chapter 9, Job's reply, but verse 9. He made the Bear, Orion, and the Pleiades, and the constellations of the southern zodiac. Basically, any studying that you do of an astronomer's universe is adding to your debt and counsel's argument to keep you back into forced relationships. Have you ever noticed that the people that love to study like within NASA or like their stars and things like that almost keep getting caught up in like how they can manifest themselves into a better portal, better scheme, finding themselves like shouting at cinnamon through the doorway and things like that? It's like, y'all are ridiculous, dude. You literally are just asking for another cloud to form over your head, and then you're just like, oh my goodness, it's making it rain. It's like, no, you're getting the first sentiment, and the rest all goes to another space. That's not a gift to receive at all. There's a way for you to have the whole package if you still believe in Israel. But, you know, otherwise, you know, what you're looking at is, has my sin harmed you? You know, that's what you're truly asking God. Has my sin harmed you? And, you know, it can't, but your question did. So your question isn't even a question that God will receive, although he's committed to. The question is something received inside you that says, I know I'm the false self. Too many false selves, you start to agree that there's somebody, a doppelganger, or someone out here on the hill that looks different than you. Put the money back. You know what I mean? Gosh, I was only supposed to read one chapter, too. Uh-oh. Well, read up to where I got. Okay. But how can a man be truly good in the eyes of God? If God decides to argue with him, can a man answer even one question of 1,000 he asks? For God is so wise and so mighty, who has ever opposed him successfully? Suddenly he moves the mountains, overturning them in his anger. He shakes the earth to its foundations. The sun won't rise, the stars won't shine. If he commands it so, only he has stretched the heavens out and stalked along the seas. He made the Bear, Orion, and the Pleiades, and the constellations of the southern zodiac.